I posted about my missing child in Ireland. I haven't seen or heard from or heard her voice or anything or had any contact with her for 6 months, though I have tried constantly, both with the mother and the sister of the mother. I have tried to reach out to my daughter, have not been contacted by her, my phone calls have not been received, and I have been blocked by the mother. So this is why I posted on my group in Ireland that I'm missing my child, right? And that this is what has happened to me, parental alienation. And so the reason I posted is because the mother, for 2 years, I had no idea, was saying something very untrue and hurtful, and in fact got me nearly killed. And I didn't realize the context of what she said until I went back to Ireland, and one of our mutual friends who recently died, Jack, told me what's been going on, and he sent me down, and he's like, well, you know, you're in trouble for getting her pregnant. I'm like, why would I be in trouble for getting her pregnant? Well, because you did that so you could get immigrated. That's what everybody said, right? I said, what? That was not the context of our arrangement. I said, and I explained to him, and this is something I proved to him. I said, when we talked about coming over and getting married, when I talked to this girl in 2019 about coming over and us getting married and me immigrating to Ireland and helping her with the kids and such, the agreement played out, and I asked her, I'm going to still be with my ex-wife, it looks like, so are you going to need any romantic partners? That might be weird. She's like, no, I don't have any intention on dating or men, any of that, but I do want a baby. And so I was like, oh, okay. So then I asked my ex-wife, and she said, okay. And we have, like, I don't know, a bazillion different Facebook conversations on Messenger about this. This has been an ongoing conversation, right, since 2019. The baby wasn't born until almost 2022. It was November of 2021 the baby was born. And for 2 years, me, my ex-wife, and my ex in Ireland, all of us are friends. Or I guess I was friends with them, but now I'm no longer. But we were all friends at the time, and we all spoke about this. I would marry her. And me and her already had chemistry, like from when I went to Ireland the second or third time I went over with my family. Me and her on New Year's had some sparks, and we had sparks for years after that. So when she asked for a baby, I wasn't surprised. Like, I wasn't shocked, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know. Like, I didn't even know you felt like that. Like, it wasn't like that. I already knew, you know. So then I go over there, and we shack up during COVID. And I told her a bazillion times to get on birth control because we kept breaking up. And then I went to go get on birth control because she never did for the 5 months I was there. Never got any form of birth control. So I decided to go get a vasectomy because a vasectomy will still allow me to feel pleasure. A condom does not. So I can't, you know, enjoy sex with a condom. Probably nerve damage from my circumcision. I don't know. But so I decided to call John McCormick in Ireland. I think it's irelandvasectomy.ie is his website. Anyway, I contacted him, asked him to schedule me for a vasectomy. This was in mid-February, and he couldn't get me in until March 11th. And so I had this appointment for about a week, and then me and her were talking about it. She had some time to consider, and then she's like, well, please don't do it. I still want a baby. Please cancel the appointment so we can try one more time, and I promise you I'll marry you. Because that was my requirement. If we're going to have a baby, if we're going to do this at all, if I'm going to immigrate, you know, if things are going to play out like we had planned in 2019, which, you know, a lot of that included the baby, then I wanted to be married. I've never had a baby out of wedlock. I've had 5 kids now with the one in Ireland, 5 biological children. 4 of them were born within wedlock. In fact, I got married to my ex-wife, and we waited for 2 years before our first baby came, after marriage. So I never wanted a baby out of wedlock. For one, I never wanted to be estranged from my child like I have been with this one in Ireland. Secondly, you know, I don't get any guardianship rights in Ireland unless I've been married to or lived with the mother for 12 months of the baby's life. And third, I think better outcomes come from children raised in a 2-parent household. I think where there's a mother and a father, the productivity and satisfaction of a child's life as it grows is more rich and beneficial, and they grow up with better outcomes. So I've always wanted my kids to grow up with good outcomes. And so we had originally intended for both of the women and all of the kids to kind of cohabitate, or at least co-family, co-parent together, all of us. And that fell apart. So I figured out why it fell apart, and this is the gossipy part. So see, I say what I have to say in public. I have nothing to hide. Someone wants to come back at me and say, no, it wasn't like that, it was like this. I'd be, all right, fine, let's discuss it. I've got some proof. Where's your proof? Let's discuss it. Come on. I'm fine with it, especially big things like this where I'm estranged from my daughter. So apparently, and now I thought it was because I told her kids to get off the cupboards that I had just fixed. I had just spent money on hinges. They were like $15, $16 euros a piece. I replaced like 8 of them, and the kids climb on the cupboards and keep breaking them, but the cupboard doors are falling apart. Like they're splitting, the wood is splitting from them climbing on it. So it's not just a matter of the broken hinges, or the bent hinges. It's more of the, breaking of the wood, the splintering of the wood. That's a lot harder to replace than a hinge. Anyway, I just said, please use a step stool. Get off the counter and use a step stool. And because I raised my voice to him, like I didn't realize it, but that like hurt her feelings. That got her upset. And she went over to her family's house. I went to sleep. The next day was our wedding. I had been up planning for it for 3 or 4 days. I'd booked all these things in Florida, nice hotel, a little reception on the beach, family to come, friends to come. I had it all kind of arranged. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on this. So I went upstairs. I had a drink of whiskey, went upstairs, went to sleep at about 4 p.m. just to catch a nap, like old people like myself do, and it upset her, so she went to the family farm where her brothers are drinking. Now, I thought she just told him, oh yeah, he, got angry with my kids for climbing on things. I thought that was the context. I was like, well, the response was pretty severe for that, because I had to fight 2 kids that were half my age, and I'm all crippled, I'm broken as broken can be. I've got all sorts of orthopedic implants and damage on my body and whatever. This is all held together with fiber wire, because that came off my arm, that came off my shoulder. Like, I have a ton of damage, and I didn't really fare well in the fight. I got hurt pretty badly. And I would have probably done a lot better if it would have just been one of them, but it was 2 kids half my age. And I'm a cripple, basically, after all the damage I've went through. And I'm missing digits now, and I'm always breaking myself. But anyway, so after the fight, I said, well, are we still going to get married? She kind of called it off. So I was like, oh, fuck, okay. So then she went and did a pregnancy test. I never saw the results, but she went and did the pregnancy test, said, oh, we're pregnant, we should get married. I'm like, okay, well, if that's going to be the case, you're going to pay for it, and then I'll just pay you back after. You pay for it, so you got skin in the game, and then afterwards, I'll pay you back. Like the day of the wedding, as long as we seal the deal, then I'll pay you back. Because I had just lost like $4,800, plane tickets, reservations, hotel rooms, the wedding officiator, she wasn't a pastor, but she wasn't a priest or anything like that, a priestess. She was something like that. But anyway, she was like somebody that does weddings, this black lady that we hired. Anyway, I put all this money into it. And I wasn't going to pay for the wedding officiation again. It was like 500 euros. So I was like, if you pay for it, I'll pay you right back. And she's like, well, let me ask my brother. It's like, you mean the brother that just almost killed me? No, I'm good. I was like, you pay for it out of your check on Friday. She gets paid every week. And then I'll just pay you back as soon as we get married and everything's all settled. Then I'll pay you back right after. She's like, no, I can't. Anyway, so I just left. I was like, well, you make up your mind. I'll give you 30 days. I've got to figure out my life if you're not ready. So I'll get back to it. And if you find that you're ready, then we'll get married. Well, she wasn't. I waited 2 months. And then I went on a dating app and found a gal. I was with her for a couple of years. Opened a jewelry store. That ended not so great. Anyway, so I came back to Ireland after 2 years of my baby being alive, not meeting her, other than on the phone, on chat and stuff. But I came back to Ireland to be a husband to my ex-fiance. We got engaged again. I went over there in October, proposed to her at Duke's Bar. She accepted. I gave her a ring. The ring was a little too small, so Anyway, she got all flustered because her friend Barry walked in on us and found that she had just accepted my wedding proposal and said, oh, I'm just going to deny it. I don't want my family to know, blah, blah, blah. I was like, man, if it's going to be like this again, I'm out of here. So I left early. I was only there for a week. And then we talked, and she convinced me that she would marry me if I came back. So I came back again, and it still wasn't like she'd gotten some things arranged that she needed to get arranged for the wedding, and it was going in a good direction, but we were constantly bickering, and it just didn't seem like she really, really wanted it. It seemed like she was begrudgingly doing it. And I didn't want that for us, so she's like, well, let's get the birth certificate done. She harped on that idea. It's like, no, I'm going to head back, If it's all about the birth certificate, I mean, it's just such a dud for me, because I still don't get guardianship rights. I still don't get any legal rights to my child by signing this birth certificate. All I do is sign up to be financially responsible. And I've always been financially responsible without the birth certificate, without a court order. I've always given maintenance up until she cut off contact with me in April. And now, I'm waiting for her to restore contact, and I'll restore maintenance. But no contact, no maintenance, That's how I see it. So anyway, and I'm happy to give. I gave double, triple sometimes, so I feel like I'm caught up and then some. But I would still be giving more if she was allowing me contact with my child. But she has ghosted me from my child because while I was there, I left again because it was all about the birth certificate. And then I came back, spent Christmas with them and their family and the kids and everything, and had a good time. But the ex of hers that has 4 kids with her, that she also alienates from the children, makes up allegations on him and files police reports and all this other shit. And he's barely ever able to contact his kids. As far as I know, that was the last, status, but maybe that's changed. She kept calling him a pedophile, so anyway, so she calls because he's giving her money and trying to contact her and trying to contact me and all this at Christmas time. And so she calls the Garda and says, hey, this guy's harassing us. Can you do something about it? And so they're like, no, you've dropped all those charges. None of that counts. It has to be ongoing for it to be harassment. So none of the other stuff that you've called the Garda on him counts because you dropped all the charges. And when they said that, I was curious. I was like, what? Wait a minute. Dropped all the charges? You said he was a pedophile. Why would you do that? That puts a lot of other people at risk. If this guy is out preying on children, then he's a risk and he should be prosecuted. And you've dropped the charges? And then I found out a whole bunch more, that they kind of rekindled a little bit, it seems like, and, she was allowing him access, and he was sending her sweet lovies and all this, and I actually took screenshots of him, conveying all this love and affection for her on her public Facebook. I got that video. Ask me for it, I'll send it to you. People are like, well, I want to hear her side of it. Trust me, I got her side of it too. We went to couples therapy, and we talked about all this, and she gave her side and I gave my side, and the therapist mediated, and the whole truth of it comes out there too. So unless she's changed her story, but that was the story right after the incident, right after I left Ireland in 2021, and then we did some couples therapy with our therapist Yvette, and we did that on Zoom, and Zoom records it, so I still have that recording. But anyway, so I went to the Garda myself after they told her there's nothing they'll do about it. I went up there and I'm like, well, he's actually writing me too. Can I file something? And then they explained the whole situation. They're like, she's basically harassed this guy with like multiple police reports and all these false allegations. And she'll make the allegation and then she'll retract it. And then she'll make another one and she'll retract it. And like she harasses this guy. And I was like, oh, God, okay. So that's what we're dealing with. And I kind of expected anyway. I recorded them. I was there in their office. I recorded our conversation. And I took it back to her house where I was staying. And I let her and her sister listen to it, what the Garda said. And that upset her. That really upset her that I recorded. And so she flipped out that I had recorded. And so then I was like, okay, so there is something fishy going on here. So then I just started recording every day until I left. So from January 8th, till January 22nd, I basically recorded every conversation. I have something like 58 hours of recordings of me and her, and just our interactions. Nothing naughty, nothing dirty, nothing like that. Just me and her discussing things, or when she would start a fight, pick some issue with me and then blow up at me in front of the kids, and then at the end blame me. Oh, you always have to be right, blah blah. I was like, you don't always have to fight with me. Let's put it that way. If you chill out, I'll chill out. Like, I'm going to respond if you come at me with some bullshit. Yes. And I think I've tried a million times to take her for a walk or discuss it with her on Messenger so that we're not doing it in front of the kids. But she, just like my ex-wife, always wanted an audience. She didn't want to walk down the street or go down by the river or go somewhere private. She wanted to have it right out in front of the kids. So I have like 58 hours of that recorded because it got weird, especially when the Garda got involved. So yes, I like her, she has cameras in her house, right? And she records and she threatens her kids that she's recording, and she always talking about recording, and I think she has a total of 4 cameras in her house, right? Anyway, so the point was that she didn't like being busted on her tactics, and then she started alienating me too right after I left Ireland on the 22nd, because we just couldn't get along anymore. I wrote her a big breakup letter the night that we had an argument. I recorded the argument, and I had been writing a breakup letter for about a week, and I've been going back and forth with a friend of mine about it because I didn't know really how to put it, but I was really kind of cold in that breakup letter. But she was very cold that whole time. Like, you'll hear it. Well, if I shared them, and I won't. I promised her that I wouldn't. But if you heard the recordings, you would hear, how cold and cruel she was with me. I recorded those. I think there's 23 total recordings. Some of them are 4 hours long. Some of them are 2 hours long. But I recorded those so that I could let her hear herself attack me and then blame me for it when I respond, because it was unfair and I didn't like the way she was acting. Like, it just sounded like she thought of me as some sort of a boarder, or somebody that owed her something, or something like that. Not as an equal, not as a partner, but as somebody indebted to her, and just talked down to me very, very, horribly, like right in front of the kids too. A lot of the time, just a real asshole to me. So I recorded it to play it back for her, because she claims she has borderline personality disorder, and she has splitting, where it's black and white thinking. Either it's really, really good or really, really bad, but it's like, on this high and low thing, not ever on a, constant plane of, oh, okay. But like when the splitting happens, it's, really bad or really good. That person's the worst ever, or that person's the best ever, That person's the devil, that person's the angel. It's heavy black and white thinking. And I just wanted to demonstrate that to her. I never intended to manipulate her with it or use it on her as some sort of leverage. I just wanted her to hear herself. And so I offered that night that we broke up, before we broke up, I was like, do you want to hear this? You keep blaming me for our issues, for our fights or whatever. Do you want to actually hear how they go down? This last one that we just had 5 minutes ago. Let me play that for you. Let me show you how it played out. And she wouldn't hear it. And she flipped out. And then, 2 days later, I left. I left Ireland. And so basically, aside from about 6 or 7 different phone visits with my daughter and my stepkids at the time, I had visits with all of them during that, first 2 weeks after I left Ireland. And then she just flat out ghosted me, and I couldn't talk to the kids at all. No, it wasn't for 2 weeks, because 2 weeks went by and I had to set up a parental alienation group and tell her I'm going to start telling my story. And then she's like, okay, don't do that. I'll let you talk to the kids. So then I started talking to the kids, and then she just turned it around on me. And because we had a scheduled time to talk at 6 p.m. every day, and I called at 6 p.m. to talk, then she's calling the police here in Utah, in where my mother lives, and telling them I'm harassing her. I'm like, yeah, but here, let me play this for you. And I played for the police our agreement to meet at 6 every night, that we had a verbal agreement and a written agreement, and I played it for the police. I'm like, she told me yesterday to call her today at 6. This was Valentine's Day, February 14th. And she had told me on the 13th, I talked to the kids that night too. She told me on the 13th to call them back. On the 14th, at the same time, 6 p.m. And I did, and when I called them, she called the police on me for harassment. And then they just basically told her to kick rocks. They're like, whatever game you're playing, basically, kick rocks is what. They didn't say that verbatim, but that's basically what they said. And the guard has been saying that to her in Ireland as well about the other guy. So that's my case. I'm putting that out there because she uses gossip and underhanded tactics to defame me. And I never know what she's saying. I didn't know for 2 years what she had been saying. She had been saying all these things about me getting her pregnant on purpose, which wasn't the case, for 2 years, until I found out when I went over there to Ireland, and mutual friends of ours set me down and told me this. So then I learned that she was using this gossip to defame me and hurt me so that she could justify all this parental alienation against me. And then that's when I decided to respond. I'm like, well, let's set the record straight. And it was online. It was public. She could have responded if she wanted. And I heard that on her page, she did respond publicly. She blocked me, but other people we know said she responded publicly. So I just responded publicly. And I put it in a forum that I wasn't blocked in so that she could respond to it. You know, it was in my group for Atai Ireland. And she could have just left a comment herself or whatever, but at least it wasn't underhanded like she was doing. At least I, made it obvious what I was saying, and that she did at least have an opportunity to respond. I didn't do it underhandedly with gossip like she did.